7 quiet things the rich do that the poor don't. Why does your boring neighbor who drives a 2015 Honda and clips coupons have more genuine financial freedom than your flashy coworker with the BMW lease, designer wardrobe, and Instagram-worthy vacations? While she's stressing about her next credit card payment and working overtime to maintain appearances, your modest neighbor owns his home outright, has 6 months of expenses saved, and could quit his job tomorrow without financial panic. Here's what's keeping you trapped in the performance of wealth instead of building actual wealth. American culture has taught us that rich people should look rich, but this is exactly backwards. Real wealth whispers while fake wealth screams, and the principles that create lasting financial security happen in complete silence, without applause or social media validation. Over the next few minutes, I'll reveal 7 ancient principles of silent wealth that compound over decades without anyone noticing. The 4th principle will shock you because it shows why studying boring topics for just 30 minutes daily creates more wealth than any trending investment strategy. If you're tired of financial performance theater, subscribe and comment quiet wealth below. But that's just the obvious part. What I'm about to reveal shows why the tortoise's strategy beats the hare's every single time. 1. Master the tortoise's secret strategy. Most Americans have been conditioned to believe that wealth building should be exciting, dynamic, and immediately visible. We chase hot stock tips, trending investment strategies, and get-rich-quick schemes because slow, methodical approaches feel insufficient compared to the financial success stories dominating social media. But this attraction to flashy wealth-building methods is exactly what keeps most people financially struggling. The ancient fable of the tortoise and the hare reveals everything about why boring financial strategies consistently outperform exciting ones. Most people remember this story as a simple lesson about perseverance, but the deeper financial wisdom gets overlooked entirely. The hare possessed every advantage that modern Americans associate with financial success: natural speed, impressive technique, and the ability to generate excitement and admiration from spectators. When the race began, the hare shot ahead dramatically, leaving the tortoise so far behind that victory seemed inevitable. Crowds cheered the hare's spectacular performance, and even the hare himself became intoxicated by the applause. But the hare's advantages became his fatal weaknesses. His natural speed made him overconfident about the outcome, so he began taking shortcuts and making impulsive decisions. The spectators' admiration distracted him from focusing on the actual goal. Most destructively, his early success convinced him that he could afford to rest, relax, and coast on his natural abilities rather than maintain consistent effort. Meanwhile, the tortoise chose a strategy that looked pathetic to outside observers. No impressive bursts of speed, no crowd-pleasing techniques, no dramatic moments that would make compelling social media content. Just steady, unremarkable progress that never deviated from the optimal path toward the finish line. The tortoise's approach seemed boring because it was boring, but that boring consistency possessed something the hare's flashy performance lacked: sustainability. While the hare exhausted himself through inconsistent effort and got distracted by external validation, the tortoise maintained the same methodical pace regardless of weather conditions, spectator reactions, or temporary setbacks. Your financial life follows identical patterns. Automated investing in boring index funds produces better long-term results than chasing exciting individual stocks. Living below your means through consistent budgeting outperforms sporadic attempts at extreme frugality followed by spending binges. Building emergency funds through small, regular deposits creates more security than hoping for windfalls to solve financial problems. The wealthy understand that boring financial strategies win because they're sustainable over decades. They don't need to motivate themselves daily to stick with exciting plans. They build systems that work, regardless of their mood, energy level, or external circumstances. But that's just the surface. What's behind it is what will startle people about why the need to prove wealth actually prevents wealth from growing. 2. Reject the emperor's display addiction. And what I'm about to say is what makes the difference between those who build wealth and those who build elaborate facades that drain their resources while providing zero lasting value. The second principle directly contradicts everything American consumer culture teaches about success and social status. Hans Christian Andersen's story about the emperor's new clothes contains a hidden lesson about wealth display that most people completely miss. But imagine the story reversed, with 2 different approaches to royal garments that reveal everything about modern financial psychology. 2 master tailors approached the emperor with completely different philosophies about royal clothing. The first tailor created elaborate, ornate garments designed to impress subjects and visiting dignitaries. These clothes featured intricate embroidery, rare materials, and artistic details that caught everyone's attention. The emperor looked magnificent during public appearances, and citizens would gasp in admiration at his obvious wealth and status. The second tailor offered simple, high-quality garments that looked unremarkable but provided superior functionality. His clothes were comfortable, durable, weather-appropriate, and required minimal maintenance. They didn't generate gasps of admiration, but they served their actual purpose effectively. During the warm months, both approaches seemed equally valid. The elaborate clothes impressed everyone, while the simple clothes kept the emperor comfortable. But when winter arrived with brutal cold, the difference became life-threatening. The ornate garments, designed for visual impact rather than functionality, provided inadequate warmth during the crucial winter parade. The emperor nearly froze while maintaining appearances, shivering through ceremonies because his clothes prioritized others' admiration over his actual needs. Meanwhile, the simple clothes kept him warm and comfortable, regardless of weather conditions or public opinion. The practical tailor had prioritized function over form, understanding that clothing should serve the wearer rather than the audience. Modern Americans face identical choices every day. Status purchases, luxury cars with high monthly payments, designer clothes that strain budgets, expensive gadgets bought for social media posts represent the ornate garments that impress others while weakening your financial position. Wealthy people choose the practical tailor's approach. They drive reliable cars they can afford, wear quality clothes that serve their needs, and make purchases based on utility rather than social signaling. This isn't because they're cheap or lack taste. It's because they understand that every dollar spent on appearances is a dollar stolen from actual wealth building. Wait, there's something you need to pay attention to if you don't want to lose everything you're building through these first 2 principles. Because even boring strategies and modest lifestyles mean nothing if you're still trading your most valuable resource for the wrong priorities. 3. Practice the wise king's resource allocation. Don't jump to conclusions, because what comes next can change your perspective completely about why most people remain trapped in cycles of working harder without ever gaining more freedom. The third principle reveals why wealthy people make purchasing decisions that seem backwards to everyone else. In ancient kingdoms, 2 neighboring rulers faced identical challenges managing their realms, but their approaches to resource allocation created dramatically different outcomes that perfectly mirror modern financial decision-making. The first king believed that displaying accumulated wealth would demonstrate his power and competence to subjects and rival kingdoms. He spent royal treasury funds acquiring magnificent artifacts, rare jewels, exotic animals, and elaborate golden decorations for his palace. His throne room became a museum of impressive possessions that visiting dignitaries would admire and remember. This king took personal pride in managing every detail of royal operations. He personally reviewed all correspondence, attended every ceremony, supervised palace maintenance, and handled diplomatic negotiations himself. He worked 18-hour days and felt indispensable to his kingdom's functioning, viewing his constant busyness as evidence of his dedication and importance. The second king pursued a completely different strategy that seemed less impressive to casual observers. Instead of accumulating treasures for display, he invested royal funds in hiring the most capable advisors, administrators, and specialists he could find. He paid premium prices for systems that would handle routine operations without requiring his daily involvement. This king's palace looked modest compared to his neighbor's impressive displays. Visitors might assume he possessed less wealth because he didn't showcase expensive collections. But behind this unremarkable exterior, the second king had purchased something far more valuable than golden artifacts. He had purchased time. When crises arose, the difference became devastating. The treasure-collecting king was so busy managing his possessions and handling routine operations that he couldn't focus on strategic decision-making during emergencies. His beautiful artifacts provided no practical solutions when enemies attacked or famines threatened his people. The time-buying king could respond swiftly to any crisis because his daily schedule wasn't consumed by routine management tasks. His advisors handled operations while he focused on high-level strategy. His systems continued functioning smoothly even during chaotic periods, and he had mental energy available for creative problem-solving when his kingdom needed it most. Modern Americans face identical choices every day, but most choose the treasure-collecting approach without recognizing the long-term costs. They mow their own lawns to save $50 while spending those hours on activities that don't advance their careers or build wealth. They handle their own bookkeeping, manage their own schedules, and run their own errands to avoid paying for services. Wealthy people understand that time is their most valuable asset because it's the only resource that can never be replenished. They pay for lawn care, house cleaning, meal delivery, and administrative assistance, not because they're lazy, but because they're strategic about how they invest their energy. Every hour spent on routine tasks is an hour not spent on activities that could generate income, build relationships, or develop skills that compound over time. When you're earning $50 per hour, but spending 2 hours weekly on lawn care to save $50, you're actually losing money through opportunity cost. But that's just the obvious part. What I'm about to say is what makes the difference between people who work hard and people who work smart by developing knowledge that provides lasting advantages. 4. Become the scholar of hidden wisdom. And it's in the next section that many people make mistakes without even knowing it. They buy back their time and choose boring over flashy, but they still struggle because they're missing the specialized knowledge that creates real financial leverage. Medieval monasteries housed two types of monks whose different approaches to learning created vastly different life outcomes. Both monks had identical access to the monastery's library and identical time available for study, but their choices about what to study revealed everything about how knowledge compounds wealth. The entertainment-focused monk gravitated toward exciting manuscripts filled with adventure stories, romantic tales, and accounts of heroic battles. These texts were engaging, easy to read, and made him feel knowledgeable about the world beyond monastery walls. Other monks enjoyed his company because he could share interesting stories during meals and discussions. The wisdom-focused monk chose completely different reading material that looked painfully boring to outside observers. He studied mathematical texts, agricultural manuals, medical treatises, and economic theories that required intense concentration and provided no immediate entertainment value. His conversations were less colorful, and other monks sometimes found his interests tedious. For years, both approaches seemed equally valid. Both monks appeared learned, both contributed to monastery discussions, and both seemed to be making good use of their educational opportunities. But when the Black Death swept through Europe, the difference became a matter of life and death. The entertainment-focused monks' adventure stories provided no practical solutions for treating plague symptoms, managing food shortages, or organizing community responses to crisis. The wisdom-focused monk's boring studies suddenly became invaluable. His medical knowledge helped save lives, His agricultural expertise helped the monastery maintain food production when trade routes collapsed, and his economic understanding helped manage resources during extreme scarcity. Modern Americans make identical choices about what deserves their attention and study time. Most people consume financial content that's entertaining but ultimately useless. Celebrity investor stories, get-rich-quick schemes, and market prediction theories that feel engaging but don't build practical knowledge. Wealthy people study boring but powerful topics that compound over time. Tax law, compound interest calculations, market cycle patterns, and financial statement analysis. This knowledge feels tedious initially, but it provides lasting advantages in decision-making that become more valuable with each passing year. All of the above will be meaningless if you miss this final detail about why thinking in decades rather than days determines whether your current efforts will create lasting wealth or temporary gains. 5. Plant like the patient farmer. You think you've understood everything? There's a detail that few people notice, but it's extremely important. Most Americans approach wealth building with the same impatience they bring to everything else in their instant gratification culture, expecting to see meaningful results within months or even weeks. This short-term thinking destroys more wealth-building potential than any market crash or economic recession. Two neighbors inherited identical plots of fertile land and decided to create something beautiful and valuable with their inheritance. Both possessed the same resources, faced identical weather conditions, and had access to the same gardening expertise. But their approaches to cultivation revealed everything about the difference between immediate gratification and lasting abundance. The impatient gardener wanted results he could see and enjoy immediately. He planted colorful annual flowers that would bloom magnificently within a single growing season, creating spectacular displays that impressed everyone who visited his property. His garden looked amazing every summer. Vibrant colors, perfect arrangements, and constant praise from neighbors who admired his obvious success. This gardener felt validated by the immediate beauty of his efforts. Within months of planting, he could point to concrete evidence that his investment of time and money had produced visible returns. His social media posts attracted hundreds of likes, his garden parties were well attended, and he felt like a successful gardener based on the immediate feedback he received. But there was a hidden cost to this instant gratification approach. Every winter, his beautiful flowers died completely, requiring him to start over from scratch the following spring. Each year demanded the same investment of time, energy, and money to recreate what had been lost. His garden looked spectacular during peak season, but provided no lasting value that accumulated over time. The patient farmer chose a strategy that seemed foolish to neighbors who observed his progress. Instead of planting flowers for immediate beauty, he planted oak saplings that looked pathetic for years. These tiny trees provided no immediate visual impact, attracted no admiration from visitors, and generated zero social media engagement. For the first 5 years, the patient farmer's property looked almost empty compared to his neighbor's spectacular seasonal displays. People walking past would see small, unremarkable saplings that barely qualified as landscaping. Some neighbors assumed he lacked gardening skills or aesthetic sense, but the patient farmer understood something about compound growth that his neighbor missed entirely. While annual flowers provided immediate gratification followed by complete loss, oak trees were building root systems that would support decades of increasing value. Each year of seemingly slow progress was actually exponential development happening underground where no one could see it. After 15 years, the difference became undeniable. The impatient gardener was still replanting the same annual flowers, still investing the same time and money every season, still creating temporary beauty that disappeared completely every winter. His garden looked identical to year one, despite 15 years of effort. The patient farmer's oak trees had become substantial, valuable assets. They provided shade that reduced cooling costs, lumber that could be harvested sustainably, and beauty that increased his property value significantly. Most importantly, These trees continued growing and becoming more valuable every year without requiring the constant maintenance and replacement that annual flowers demanded. Your financial decisions follow identical patterns. Index fund investing looks boring compared to exciting individual stock picks, but it compounds wealth over decades, while stock picking usually destroys it. Building professional skills gradually over the years creates more earning potential than chasing quick career changes. Maintaining long-term relationships develops more valuable networks than constantly meeting new people. The wealthy think like oak planters, not flower gardeners. They make investments that look unimpressive initially, but compound over time into substantial assets. But that's just the surface. What's behind it is what will startle people about why most wealth building fails, because people keep changing strategies instead of deepening their commitment to proven approaches. 6. Join the Master Craftsman's Guild. And it's in the next section that many people make mistakes without even knowing it. They develop patience for long-term thinking, but still struggle because they keep switching between different wealth-building strategies instead of committing deeply to relationships and approaches that compound over decades. During the Renaissance, European craftsmen faced career decisions that perfectly mirror modern choices about industry focus and relationship building. Two types of artisans emerged with completely different approaches to professional development and wealth creation. Opportunistic craftsmen operated like modern gig workers, constantly evaluating market conditions and switching guilds whenever better opportunities appeared. If blacksmithing paid more this year, they'd leave woodworking. If textiles showed higher demand, they'd abandon metalwork. They believed that maximizing short-term income and avoiding commitment would create the most financial success. These guild hoppers appeared smart and adaptive to outside observers. They seemed to be maximizing their earning potential by following market trends and avoiding the limitations that came with deep specialization. They never missed obvious opportunities because they weren't tied down to any particular craft or community. Master craftsmen took a completely different approach that seemed limiting to opportunistic peers. They chose guilds based on values alignment, quality of relationships, and long-term reputation, rather than immediate financial returns. Once committed, they stayed loyal even when other opportunities appeared more lucrative in the short term. The master craftsman's approach looked inefficient because they passed up immediate opportunities to earn more money elsewhere. They invested time in relationships with guild members, developed deep expertise in specific crafts, and built reputations slowly over many years, rather than chasing quick recognition. After decades, the difference became extraordinary. Guild hoppers had learned surface-level skills in many areas, but never developed the deep expertise that commanded premium prices. They had no lasting relationships with suppliers, customers, or peers, so they constantly competed against newcomers, willing to work for less money. Master craftsmen had become irreplaceable within their guilds. Their deep relationships provided consistent work referrals, their specialized knowledge commanded premium prices, and their long-term reputation created customer loyalty that couldn't be replicated quickly. Many became guild leaders who influenced entire industries and built wealth that transferred to their children. Modern Americans face identical choices about career focus and relationship building. Job hopping for immediate salary increases often produces less long-term wealth than deepening expertise within industries or companies. Constantly seeking new investment strategies typically underperforms staying committed to boring index fund approaches over decades. I'll tell you something that many people regret for the rest of their lives, just because they didn't realize it in time. The final principle reveals why all previous strategies become meaningless if you're still trapped in the golden cage of status seeking that destroys the very freedom wealth should provide. 7. Choose the sparrow's freedom over the golden cage. All of the above will be meaningless if you miss this final detail that separates those who build wealth for freedom from those who build wealth that becomes a beautiful prison. The seventh principle reveals why many people who successfully accumulate money still feel trapped and stressed about their financial lives. Eastern philosophy tells of a wealthy merchant who discovered an exotic golden bird with magnificent plumage and a beautiful singing voice. Enchanted by this rare creature, he spared no expense creating the perfect environment to showcase his prize. He commissioned master craftsmen to build an ornate golden cage decorated with precious gems, filled it with the finest imported foods, and displayed it prominently where every visitor would admire his obvious wealth and sophisticated taste. The golden bird lived in luxury that most creatures could never imagine. It ate delicacies, lived in artistic surroundings, and received constant admiration from impressed guests who praised the merchant's refined sensibilities and obvious prosperity. The bird's beautiful cage became the centerpiece of the merchant's home, a testament to his success and status. Outside the merchant's window lived a simple sparrow with plain brown feathers and an unremarkable voice. This sparrow built its nest from common materials, ate ordinary seeds and insects, and attracted no attention from anyone who passed by. Its life appeared modest and unremarkable compared to the golden bird's luxurious existence. Yet when dawn arrived each morning, the sparrow could choose its own schedule, waking when natural rhythms dictated, flying wherever curiosity led, building relationships with other sparrows based on genuine connection rather than display value. The sparrow's simple life provided something the golden bird's luxury could never offer: complete autonomy over daily choices. The golden bird had everything money could buy except the one thing that made life worth living: freedom to choose how to spend each day. Its beautiful cage was still a cage, regardless of the precious materials used in its construction. Modern Americans create identical cages through status purchases that drain their resources while limiting their options. The BMW lease requires overtime work to afford. The expensive apartment forces acceptance of a stressful job. The designer's wardrobe prevents career changes because payments must be maintained. Wealthy people understand that every unnecessary expense is a golden bar in a self-constructed cage. They choose the sparrow's freedom over the golden bird's luxury because true wealth isn't about what you can afford to buy. It's about what you can afford to refuse without financial consequence. Do you see anything unusual? The answer is right here. Real wealth provides options, not obligations, and the difference determines whether money serves you or enslaves you. These 7 principles reveal that silent wealth isn't about your income level. It's about adopting the mindset and habits that compound freedom over decades. The tortoise's boring consistency, rejection of status displays, strategic time purchases, hidden wisdom acquisition, decade-level thinking, guild loyalty, and sparrow-like freedom create wealth that whispers instead of screaming. If even 3 of these principles resonate with your current approach, you're already thinking like someone building lasting financial security rather than temporary impressive appearances. The wealthy don't need applause because they have something better: options without obligations. Choose one principle from today's video and practice it for 30 days without telling anyone. Real wealth builds in silence, not through social media announcements. Which principle challenges your current financial approach the most? Share your biggest insight in the comments below, and subscribe for next week's video, where I reveal specific tactics for implementing these ancient strategies with any income level. Remember, real wealth moves quietly because it doesn't need applause. It has freedom instead.